microphone out front? Okay, there's a microphone right over there in a case, a condenser mic. If you can just put that on a stand and then turn on the phantom power. It's in a little black case. It's right in there by my other stuff, I think. Oh, direct out doesn't always work. You know, there's a thing about that. Man, I've been out. Well, thank you. That's right. Mike, it's in a black box, a black case, black plastic case, kind of big case. Should be right there, I hope. Unless I put it somewhere else. Yeah. Need another stand. Another stand like right in front here. This to mic the stage, though. So just put that in front of the stage. I mean, I need this mic still. But it's like another. Okay, yeah, just put it out there, and we're gonna mic the stage. That's I don't really know how to use that thing, but I. You have to put a cable on it, though. So that's usually on a mic stand. I mean, do you have another stand at all? Or even one of the short stands would work. Because you can put it on like a regular stand, but it has to have a cable, you know. So you plug it into whatever you're using there. The direct out thing, that one, yeah. The one on the far right, I think. They take. We haven't really done the beginning of the Tom's guitar show yet, but in fact, they probably can't even hear what I'm saying. Because you just like kneel before us and do this all the show, or
It's got to need a stand of some kind.
put in that stand temporarily, or I don't know. Or the readers could come up here and sit in my lap and use this microphone instead.
Are there little feet on this at all?
That's supposed to go onto a mic stand, though. You just screw it onto a mic stand. I mean, that's just the mic holder.
Oh, right, gotcha. Okay, okay.
And I've never used it. It intimidates me. I just don't.
Okay, we can do it.
Well, there we go. We're all right. No, we can use that one. I mean, he's got. Yeah. I'm not helping at all. I'm just. How about
join the club?
Pick a key. Hey, Ralph, pick a number, letter between A and G. F. Okay. Minor or major? That's it. You have the pointing toward me, I think. Hang on. Think of a. All right.
Just like somebody reads, we'll just make sure we
I'll do more F later, but is this show on? Is this pointed toward me? Should I move around like this a little bit? Yeah, and like so. All right. Does anybody know if this show is ready to go?
Yeah, we're good downstairs. Everything's been going, so.
Oh, so it's time to start the show.
It's time to start.
All right, here we go. On my mark, get set. Thank you. So we're really started. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar, and they call me on the phone. My usual weekly show, which say, hey, man, what's your show about? It's about an hour. It's about an hour. It's about guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic. That about an hour is a Phil joke, by the way, for you, those of you who know Phil, who's working on the show downstairs. But this is the end of the month, the last Tuesday of the month, and the last Tuesday of the month I play at Uptown Bill's Coffee House, which is in the corner of South Dubuque and Lafayette Streets, down by the tracks, not far from beautiful downtown Iowa City. And so if you want to watch the show, come on in person, come on down right now. If it's Tuesday, if it's Friday night, you're watching the rerun. So if it's on the internet 5 years from now, you've missed it by a long shot. So, okay. All right. Well, this week it's only me this month playing my guitars. So I have a couple things cooked up, and then I have a couple readers coming. Next month on the show, I'm going to have the whole string band, and we're going to do a whole bunch of different music from a bunch of different eras, and major shindig. But this is kind of a quiet little show, and we're hoping everything goes calmly and smoothly from here on out. find me a river. So, thank you. Well, I want to do something else here real quick. Just for fun, I like to bring extra guitars along just because, you know, it's my way of being a sport. So, oops. Oh boy. You know? I couldn't put it in that stand. All right, so this guitar was actually a relatively cheap Ibanez. Not a bad guitar. I bought it used and kind of cheap, but it's a nice little electric guitar. But the problem with it was, when I got it home, it started buzzing, had fret buzz, because the strings, what they call the action, was too low. The strings are too close to the fingerboard, and which caused a lot of sadness and everything. And so I couldn't find a truss rod wrench. There's a little rod in the neck, and you can adjust it with a little Allen wrench. And I couldn't find the right size. And then I finally found one that was in a case of a different guitar, and I was going to loosen the truss rod, and I found out it was already loosened all the way, which accounted for the fact that it would rattle when I played it, because the truss rod was totally, loose inside. So I tightened it slightly, and I thought, well, I could put really heavy-duty strings on it, maybe bring the neck forward a little bit, or I could just like tune it up, because it's something you're not supposed to do because it bends the neck. But I want to bend the neck back the way it's supposed to be, so I tuned it up. So, you know, as a regular, this is actually a third higher than a guitar. And so now I'm going to get really nerdy and really boring and tell you why I like this. Because like 200 years ago, in the early 19th century, when guitars, as we know them, were fairly new, there was a guitar called a Terz guitar, T-E-R-Z. And it was a guitar that was tuned, like, you know, 3 half tones higher than a regular guitar. And a lot of stuff was written for Terz guitar duets, because one was higher, one was lower. And this was sort of a thing where like a brother and sister could play it. Maybe one would play the high, one would play the low, or the two sisters, or something. A lot of women. There's this idea going around that women don't normally play guitar, but the guitar was always considered a women's instrument for the last 500 years or so. And there have been a lot of really fine women guitarists. And but they made a guitar that was a little bit smaller and higher pitch to be played with an ordinary guitar, so you get this duet thing. So, by the way, if you don't know about women in guitar, just look at Ida Presti, who is some consider the best guitarist of the 20th century, and she died of cancer kind of young, was it 42? And people say, well, nobody paid attention to her because she was, you know, but she was the director of the Paris Conservatory, so that's a pretty good gig, and she did a bunch of wonderful things with her husband, Alexander Lagoya, who played second guitar to her, and she did face some discrimination, though, because she was French, but her parents were from Italy, and that's, never mind. But anyway, I'll get off the subject of the Terz guitar, which was, of course, it was a classical guitar. This is an electric guitar, so anyway, I'm going to do something with this. Thank you. As far as I know, that's the only Terz guitar, Terz electric guitar around. I'm sure somebody else thought of it, but. Well, if I have time, I'll get back to. Does anybody want to read something? Is there a reader who could read? Young Tom, you could read. There's a lot of Thomism up here, if you will. Chances are, if you say Tom up here, somebody will say, what? So. Like my chili pepper guitar strap?
Hey,
it was a gift.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I was thinking that Thomism, isn't that a philosophical construct or like a whole idea or something?
Theological?
St. Thomas.
Thomas Aquinas? Oh, I see.
Yeah. Well, I have a little something about Easter and Passover, column I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a joke first.
Okay.
How do you catch the Easter bunny?
How?
Hide in the bushes and make a sound like a carrot.
Ah, okay. That'd be hard to do. Yeah.
You want to...
They peel carrots, don't they? Sorry.
Yeah. You want another?
I won't know till it's too late.
We got one more. Why wouldn't the Easter egg cross the road?
I don't know.
She was a little chicken.
Ah.
All right. Well, I think everybody knows that two of the major world religious holidays are this week.
Mm-hmm.
Passover started last night at sundown, and Easter is on Sunday. Easter and Passover are linked by their history and by the calendar. What Christians refer to as the Last Supper was actually a Passover celebration by Jesus and his friends. Passover recalls the story of the exodus of Moses and the Israelites from slavery in Egypt to freedom in the Promised Land. This story is part of both the Jewish scriptures, the Torah, and the Christian scriptures, the Old Testament. The Exodus story begins with Moses asking the Egyptian Pharaoh to release the Israelites from slavery. Pharaoh, Ramses II, says, no. What follows is a series of plagues to convince the Pharaoh to change his mind. The final plague is the death of every firstborn Egyptian child. According to the Exodus account, this is the plague that resulted in the Israelites being free to go. The Israelite families were passed over from this final plague, hence the name Passover. Passover was celebrated in many homes last night with a Seder, a dinner that includes the retelling of the Exodus story. I recall going to a Seder a few years ago, and we'd left the door open for Elijah, the prophet, to come in. And it was a day like yesterday, cold, snowy. And about 15 minutes in, we were waiting for Elijah, and my daughter Molly says, he's not coming, now shut the door. Mm-hmm. So, in recent years, the Seder idea has caught on in some Christian congregations too. You can find a nice guide to a Seder at the website for a magazine called Tikkun, Tikkun. And you don't have to be Jewish to create or attend a Seder, they advise. That reminds me of a 1960s ad campaign for a New York bakery. They had a whole series of ads with people from different cultural backgrounds, and the tagline in the ad was, you don't have to be Jewish to love Levy's Jewish Rye. You may remember these. The whole set of ads are in the Smithsonian now, and you can find them by looking them up again online. Levy's Jewish Rye was the product, long gone, but the ads have remained. The dates for Easter and Passover, of course, are determined by the moon. Easter is the only holiday on the Christian calendar that's determined by the moon and not the sun. So, how do you figure out Easter? It's the first Sunday after the first full moon, after the first day of spring. So, if you want to figure out when Easter's going to be in, 2025, get out your astronomy calendar and go to work. The name Easter apparently comes from Ostrake, a goddess of spring in northern Europe. That's the explanation in a history of England written by Bede the Venerable. Would you like to have that as a last name, Venerable?
Yeah.
And of course the same middle name is Smokey the Bear.
Oh yeah.
Bede was a Benedictine monk and a historian. His book, Ecclesiastical History of the English People, was first published in 731. It's still in print.
An oldie but a goodie. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. And you can also find copies of it online. In fact, it was one of the first in a series of first group of books that were published online as part of something called the Gutenberg Project. They picked 100 books that they thought should be available to everybody in the world, and put them all online. A labor of love that took quite some time, and it's resulted in a number of other projects like it. There are now probably 100,000 books with the total text online that you can access for free. For some interesting essays about Easter, I've got a website for you to visit. It's called Busted Halo. So it's www.bustedhalo.com. And you type Easter into the search box and you'll find a lot of interesting stories about Easter. So Busted Halo. The Exodus story was a common reference during the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. Martin Luther King and other movement leaders used lots of images from the Exodus. King's I Have a Dream speech is full of references from this story, for example. For me, it's hard to think of Easter and Passover without also thinking of the Ten Commandments, that big movie by Cecil DeMille, which is shown on television every year around this time. Look for it. The 1956 film, which is the one usually shown on television, depicted the Exodus story on a grand scale with a real cast of thousands. One scene, the parting of the Red Sea, is ranked among the top scenes in the history of film. It actually was done by having the sea roll in and then showing it to us backwards so it appears to roll apart, so that the Israelites could get through without getting wet. It's from this film that many of us have gotten our images of the Exodus story. It's hard to think of the story without thinking of the images in that film. Have kind of an independent idea of what it would have been like. DeMille used historical sources for the film, including the Quran and the writings of the Jewish historian Josephus, as well as the Torah and the Old Testament. But don't rely on him for historical accuracy. He was always willing to rearrange history for dramatic effect. The 1956 film was actually the second Ten Commandments film by DeMille. He did an earlier one, a silent film on the same grand scale, in 1923. The earlier film included not only the Exodus story, but also a modern parable about a mother and two sons. One grows up to be a poor but honest carpenter. The other one grows up to be wealthy but dishonest. The earlier film was shot on the beach near San Luis Obispo, California. After the film was completed, the sets were buried in the sand. In recent years, efforts have been made to excavate the film and preserve the sets. The 1923 film includes the very early use of Technicolor. And you can find both of these on DVD and on VHS if you're still holding onto your videotape player. And if you're looking for an alternative film around this time of year, other than the Ten Commandments and the 3 or 4 others, you might look for Jesus of Montreal. It's a 1989 film that tells the story of a group of actors who present an outdoor passion play, a retelling of the life of the last week of the life of Jesus. But what begins as a play gradually becomes real life as the actor playing Jesus and his followers traverse the streets of Montreal. It's a fascinating story of what might happen if Jesus were to appear in modern times. And that's all I have for you for tonight. Thank you.
It's very interesting. I like that Charlton Heston with his big stick, parting the waters and everything.
Yeah, I have copies of posters from both the 23 film and the 56 film, but I couldn't bring them to show to you. I only have them online, but I should have blown them up and brought them out. It's quite interesting to look at the way in which the two films were portrayed.
That's interesting. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's interesting history anyway, because of course the Israeli archaeologists have been all over the place trying to prove these stories, and they found nothing. So. Tango. Something doesn't sound good, I don't know why. I have a lot of personal problems that are involved with sound, because if it doesn't sound right, then I become maudlin, you know. And it's always kind of this thing. So I solved the problem with my little Ibanez guitar. Now I've put it into a Terz guitar. So I'm the guy with the electric Terz. But now, I'm getting distortion. And I don't like it. But why? Why am I asking you this? Because Tom over here, he solved all my other sound problems earlier. So I'm expecting him to, you know. When in doubt, change guitars. Hang on a second.
You have another reader too, when you're...
Yeah, I know. As soon as she's get down with their business over there. Would you like to read something?
Sure.
Well, here's your big chance. Somebody's got to turn that camera in your direction, but there we go.
I'm a little shorter though.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's all right. I think it's about right. There you go.
Okay, so Tom had me come up with the story then. So.
Why don't you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm Deirdre.
Deirdre, okay.
Yep, I volunteer here, so.
Okay, well.
Okay, this is about Anton Dvorak in Spillville. So during the summer of 1893, Spillville hosted Anton Dvorak, one of the world's most famous composers. Dvorak had come to America the previous fall to serve as director to the National Conservatory of Music in New York. He had also been accompanied from Bohemia by Joseph Dvorak, who had only a short time earlier completed his studies in Prague and was now serving the composer as his secretary and also interpreter. Dvorak, homesick for his native land, initially planned to spend his 4-month vacation at his home country in Bohemia. But fascinated by Dvorak's vivid descriptions of the village and its people, the composer changed his mind and sent for his children to join him and made arrangements to spend the summer in the United States. There was another factor in his decision. If he left for Bohemia as planned, it would be impossible for him to finish his symphony that he was working on, and that he was very reluctant to let that happen. So the prospect excited him, and he set out then for the summer into the state of Iowa for the Czech village of Spillville, where the teacher and the parish priest and everything is Czech. And so I shall be among my own folks and looking forward to it very much, he said essentially. I shall have pigeons there and maybe even play darga. How grand it will be. When his duties for the New York season were finished, him and his family essentially left for Spillville. By nightfall of June 5th, Dvorak and his wife, his 6 children, a sister-in-law and maid were all getting settled in the top story of a brick home owned by Jacob Smith. Released from the distracting noises and confusion of the city and the pressures of New York, he was finally able to actually work on the music that he actually wanted to do for his own pleasure. He used the town's only piano, which was pretty much described as old and yellow, and his father called it a noisemaker, to which Dvorak retorted, as if he would have such a piano. When the composer needed to work out a harmony, he went across the street to try the wedding gift of an organ from essentially Wendy Korvorik that she had gotten from her husband, and it had the best sound of several reed organs in the community. Within 3 days, the Dvorak outline was finished, and by the end of June, he incorporated the wood, stream, prairie, and field sounds and moods of Spillville into one of his masterpieces, the String Quartet in F major. It was the work that Joseph Dvorak's wife recognized the melody of the Scarlet Tanager. On the 1st of August, Dvorak completed the String Quartet in E-flat, a chamber piece inspired by the dancing and beat drumming of 3 Indians, a Sioux and the other is Algonquin, whom he witnessed at performances in the village by a traveling herb medicine troupe. Frank Kapler identified the Indians as Big Moon, John Fox, and John Deere. The troupe had set up tents in the field across the creek from Norrick's brewery, and Dvorak avidly attended each performance during the performers' 14-day stay. It is not known if Dvorak purchased any of the medicines the Indians were selling. Their Nordstroms include a slave, and they claimed they could cure anything from a wart to an ingrown toenail. But at one of the performances, Anton did try one of the ointments for a slight headache, and when the compound was rubbed on his forehead, he said it burned like thunder. Of the sojourn in Spillville, Dvorak said that the 3 months that he spent in Spillville will remain a happy memory for the rest of his life. He enjoyed being there and was very happy, and he found that the 3 months of heat was a little bit trying. No, it was made up, however, by being among his own people and a Czech countryman, and that gave him a lot of joy. If it had not been for that, he would not have come at all. And he liked to be among his people, and they were all fond of him. And especially the grandpas and grandmas were pleased when he played them the church God Before Thy Majesty and 1,000 Times We Great Thee. He became also good friends with the father, Father Billy, and also his children. And he also went to visit Chuck Farmers miles away. It was very strange here because there's few people and there's a great deal of empty space, especially probably compared to New York. A father's nearest neighbor is often miles away, especially in the prairies there, and only endless acres of field and meadows all you see. And you don't need a soul, and yet you're glad to see the woods and meadows and the herds of cattle, which summer and winter are out at pasture and in broad fields. And men would go to woods and meadows where the cows would graze to milk. It was very wild there, and sometimes it was very sad to despair. According to musician J.T. Howard, with the environment of peaceful village of Spillville, full of music and comfort, Dvorak would never have understood America so well without it. So with this, Dvorak would have been in full agreement. In his letter to Dr. Koziak, he said, "I know that my new symphony and also the string quartet and quintet composed here in Spillville would never have been written in the manner in which I would have written them if I had not seen America." So, it's pretty interesting.
There you go, there you go. Yeah. Goes to show you those bohemians get around. That was the main ethnic joke when I was a kid, were bohemian jokes. And I think we've talked about that at the show before, though, Mr. Skubinski over here came to Iowa to escape the Polish joke. They moved over a country or two to make fun of the Bohemians, but. I'd rather tell musician jokes. Tom had a joke about something, I forget, but he had a couple jokes, but the joke that I just heard, a bass player joke, was what did the bass player say when he stepped up to the microphone? Would you like fries with that? Because they don't, bass players don't talk. Difference between a trombone player and a sax player? Sax player has a job. Two guys walking down the street. One of them was a guitar player. The other guy, he didn't have any money either. There you go. So this one sounds okay. So what's the problem? I mean, why am I asking? Why am I asking the viewing audience? You didn't have anything to read, did you, this week?
Not to read.
Yeah. You have anything to say?
I had something I wanted to ask Tom about really briefly, if I can. We have a few seconds.
We have like
Question.
we have a few minutes. That clock's fast, isn't it? What time is it really?
9:02.
9:02. I didn't think it was even 7 o'clock yet. Sorry.
I got a joke.
You got a joke?
Sure.
Well, let's have it all. You start with that. You start with that, and you bring up the joke. And
I wanted to ask Tom, he mentioned the Levi bread commercial. I don't know if this was a nationally distributed brand, or I was out on the East Coast at this time. Do you remember, it may still be around, Manischewitz wine?
Oh, sure.
Is there such a thing as a kosher wine? Is Manischewitz?
Manischewitz was a kosher wine, yeah.
I remember their jingo, though. It was Mano Manischewitz, what a wine. And it was about the same time as the Levi bread commercial. But, you know, I think I'm feeling pretty old tonight when a commercial you remember from your youth is down the Smithsonian. That's bitter. That's cruel. So,
What was the poet said, Bob Dylan, you know, you are a walking antique. Huh?
yeah, I guess it's something we all have to face. So anyway, I enjoyed that. And I also enjoyed the reading about Dvorak. I can remember, again, when I was a kid, about the same time as the Manischewitz commercials were running, we had a collection of classical records. It was a big bunch of albums, and each one had a booklet with pictures in it. And I remember, Dvorak has always been one of my favorite composers, and I remember looking at the booklet, and there was actually a picture of Spillville, Iowa in that. And little did I know that many, many years later, I would be a resident of Iowa. And I shame myself. I've lived here since the 1980s, and I still have not been up to Spillville. Which is way up near Decorah, and it's hard to get to, and it's like a 3-hour drive. But one of these days before I leave Iowa, I've got to get to Spillville and see Biley's Clock Museum and all sorts of great stuff. So that's a really mark of honor of Iowa that Dvorak lived here and had such a great experience here. So, if you want to have a joke for us?
Oh,
Okay,
sure.
you're good.
It's just a music joke my dad told me when I was little. What's the difference between an onion and an accordion?
What?
No one cries when you break an accordion.
That's right. Yeah, when you chop one up, I think. Yeah. Huh. I like that one. Yeah. wonderful world. Well, I still have a chance. I want to give this my new Terz guitar thing.
We should do a duet with that. Get another guitar player or one of the other.
You're saying I should do a duet, and I actually somewhere on my computer I have on my hard drive somewhere I have a bunch of Terz guitar duets, and the thing, this is a very interesting thing, and I researched this because of my ukulele issues. You see, and I'm sure everybody knows that ukuleles come in different sizes, and the smaller the ukulele, the higher the pitch, and there are 5 ukuleles, basically. There's a bass ukulele, which is a bass guitar. It's a new thing. It has big, thick silicon strings, like big rubber bands. And so that's tuned like a bass guitar or a string bass. Then you have the baritone ukulele, which is like the first 4 strings of a guitar. You have the tenor or concert ukuleles. And there's some debate about this, but they're basically tuned like a guitar with a capo on the 5th fret, which would be like this. And then you have the soprano ukulele, which some say is tuned like, somebody called me all kinds of terrible names on the internet because I said soprano ukulele was tuned a whole step higher than a concert ukulele. He said, no, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about, stuff like that. And I said, hey man, there's not exact science how to tune ukulele, and that's the way they used to do it. Nowadays they tune a soprano ukulele, the little tiny one, the same as a concert ukulele, which is slightly larger. But in the old days they used to tune it a whole step higher. So it'd be like this, right? And then there's a sopranino sopranino ukulele, which is like a guitar at the 12th fret. So it's like that. And I've always wanted one, but it's a little tiny ukulele. So one thing is, how do you learn how to play these? Because they're all the same fingerings, but they're in different keys. So what they did in the Terz guitars, they would write the music the same way as they'd write the music for an ordinary guitar, but it would be a little difference of the clef. They'd have a different color, the clef, so the notes would be in different places. But you wouldn't have to learn how to read anything differently. You just play it as if you were playing a regular guitar. It's just that the notes would come out, higher.